team, we're going to do some artwork this morning for Eberron Adventure we call Crystals of the Bar. Give me a moment here to check in on my signal and make sure that I'm coming through clearly. I'm going to do some fast social media posting, and we're going to do some artwork today. So, checking in on mic check, 1, 2, 3. Checking in on mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it sounds pretty solid. Okay, let's drop that down there so it's not in the way. I'm going to grab the link here real fast to do the social media posts. Let me regale you with my origin story while I go through some clickety-clickety. My name is Phil Kearney. What's up? I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been a DM since 1987. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2004. And I've been creating content on the DMsGuild since 2018. But I haven't done anything for Eberron specifically yet. Nor have I actually published an adventure yet. These are two things on my bucket list that I want to resolve, which we are doing with the Crystals of Mabar. For characters level 7 and 8-ish, you're fighting necromancers, demons, and undead in the Carnwood of Karnath on the continent of Corvair. My social media posts are done, so let me go ahead and fix my screen here. We're going to do some all the artwork for the book. This book cover came in around episode 40. Right now we're doing character illustrations for, here's our current page layout for the plot hook number 3, Church of the Silver Flame, where a diviner of the flame sends characters off to go shut down a manifest zone to the plane of Mabar that is unnatural. And so scouts are sent to explore it. They go missing. So your characters are hired to recover the scouts and to shut down the manifest zone that is discovered. So, yeah. So we're going to work on character sketch stuff today. Just go through our imagination process and start doing the line art for it. So we'll do the line art. Then we'll do the color flats underneath the comic book style with lighting and highlights and shadows. And then we'll merge it. Together, and then we'll integrate the art, the line art, into the color and put texture over the characters. And once these are done, we'll reinsert them into the page. And in the meantime, off screen, I'll be working on the diviner here, who's in the throes of oracling with a hearth in the background. That's the general gist of what we got going on this page. But we won't need to worry about that here on screen. No, I'm going to hit save here real fast. We won't need to worry about this for until after the weekend. So we're going to focus on character art, creating sketches, character sketches, and then working from there. So if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. Here is a playlist of a bunch of other books that I've created on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews, as will this book once it publishes, and of course all the assets and stuff that are in a zip file that accompany it when you make a purchase is a vote of encouragement to create more stuff on the DMsGuild. So thank you for the support, and let's get to work. So we're going to use so we're thinking scouts. I'm thinking lightly armored, like hides, leather, studded, maybe chain shirt, probably a mix of leather and chain shirt. I think that looks really cool, having leather and chains. It looks really neat on the characters. I don't have a particular motif for the Silver Flame other than not looking like the Silver Flame, because the Silver Flame is not welcomed in Karnath. It could be considered a declaration of war if commandos from Thrain are found in Karnath. So we're going to make them not have any kind of flame regalia, and so they look more neutral or just like random NPC adventurers to avoid trouble. But having said that, let's begin the doodle process. So we've got this guy here. We're going to make separate folders here for each of these guys. There we go. Boink, doink, doink, doink. And then bloop, 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 bloop. Boom, boom, boom. There. So we'll start with this. We'll start with this sketch here. I'm going to drop this down to a lower opacity. We've got the black and white going over here. This is a 300 by 300 pixel space that we're operating inside of. And I think my techniques overall, I find it ironic how AI art and my style of ideation are similar in that I have a vague impression or idea of what I want the character to look like, and as it proceeds, I fill in more and more details in this blur of potential options without really having any direction or guidance other than what my instincts tell me to do. And I think AI kind of works that same way, where it doesn't have a real opinion about what it's doing other than what it feels is right. But what it feels is right is based off of the algorithms that indicate people like this sort of art. So it kind of has this nasty please the crowd sort of hang up that it has to deal with. And I don't necessarily pity the machine, but if that is true, that is sad. But yeah, we basically go through the same process of just kind of letting details slide into position. And the more I can turn off my brain, the more the pixels can freely flow to find what they are supposed to be. So we're just doing some basic bust work here right now. I'm thinking I want to, for the most part, the way that we've been doing it is major NPCs or people of high importance. Here, I'm going to... Yeah, I need to cut, paste, and then get rid of that. There. Retransform. Very good. So yeah, NPCs of major importance have been... for the most part, like a bust of like chest up, and the less important the character becomes, the more of their body that I illustrate, because there's less detail in the form overall. Closer look, higher detail. That's not 100% always the case, but it tends to be a trend that I follow. So these NPCs aren't meant here for you to fight. They aren't major characters, but they provide information and point the character in the right direction during the adventure if you encounter them. And so to that sense, I think I want to do, I think I want to make them sort of, what's the word I want to use? I guess mid-range. So like thigh up perhaps. I'm already thinking I don't like how I have this set up. So I think I'm going to drop this down. Yeah, we're going to leave that like that. I'm going to conceal those two things for the moment because I feel like I want to go more action posy, because these guys are only encountered if you are roaming around and they're in the process of either escaping, evading capture, or combating undead, or stealthing around. So I don't think they should have a passive pose. I want them to have a little bit more of an active pose, but yeah, so we're going to start just sussing through these dudes a little bit. Create a sort of again, we don't want them to look like the Silver Flame because that'd give away who they are. So that gives me a lot of liberty in style that I'm going to use. And I feel like I want to do like this back knife rogue sort of idea. So we're just going to blur in some form right now. Mostly right now we just want to get the pose so it feels energetic. I can probably drop frame just a little bit more. There we go. Get you in that space there. Meh. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, it feels pretty good. I think I can let that sit. It's a decent pose, so I think I'm gonna let that. Yeah, I can let that sit like that, so that's cool. And that means we can potentially still integrate. Let's drop the opacity there and add this back in. Bring this up. Transform. For transform, resize this down. Okay, so that is sliding into place. Very good. And so we can probably take this guy here and perhaps integrate this one as well for transform. This could potentially work out. Get him there. Something like that might work. I'm going to grab this and reduce this size down a little bit more so the head isn't too big. That'll end up being a cloud of activity that we can work with. So that'll be one of the character poses. Roughly. And then let's grab this dude and bring this one. I'm going to make sure they're all the same size and proportion. Let's see. Let's go with a little bit more of an armored dude here, so more warrior than rogue in this instance. I think we'll I know I want one of these guys to have an axe. So sketching something like this. Extend that grip down here. So bad. Tighten up that elbow here. kick that leg out to be more actiony. Yeah, this guy's looking cool. So we'll armor him up a little bit. We can afford to keep that twist leg there. Generic action pose feels pretty good. Action pose feels pretty good. Again, we're just going for, right now we're just doing gestures, so we're going to go through, we're going to cycle through all these, do the sketch, like the pose, and then once we have a decent pose to work with, we'll go in and we'll start doing detail work or start defining the actual form of the character. So let's grab this cloud here and bring this dude down to be about the same scale. Feels about right. Blip, blip. Let's go with something like duplicate that layer here. How do I want to do you? Got an axe, we got a double blade. I think we'll go with sword and board on this guy. So we'll set up a shield here. And you know what? I want to flip that. We'll go shield on the left side, offhand. Here again, we're just establishing shape and form right now. That feels pretty good. I want, again, no regalia for the Silver Flame at all, keeping it generic. So I guess it doesn't really matter if it's I mean, we label this as working on Church of the Silver Flame, and although that's technically true, you don't know that without context, and that's the point. You don't want any of the Karnath citizens having context that these are actually Silver Flame spies. So having to think about like what's generic Karnath material that a normal citizen would have access to, or like ex-military perhaps. So I don't want any exotic flame motif going on anywhere with this. The diviner that sends you on the mission back safely in Thrain, of course, can have all the regalia she wants, but these dudes are hostile territory. They gotta be subtle. That feels kind of right. I'm going to keep these guys looking fairly modern. That we're going to do. We're going to have a similar. I believe we're going to have a similar process with the Gatekeeper Druids. That'll be more have a more primal motif because of Druid and Ranger and Barbarian sect. I like to take little chunks out of shields occasionally. They're like that. It's getting a decent little pose in for us to work with. I'm gonna bring this leg in a bit here. Yeah, something like that. And that's just about the most neutral pose I could probably come up with. So let's fade that one down. And actually, I'm just going to ignore that one altogether. Okay, Muse, guide me. We're going to use this little swirly effect that we go with. This helps create a cloud of possibilities for us to then find the character inside of the cloud. And I'm already starting to feel archery sort of feel to this guy. And he's bigger in proportion, so let's bring that down. Well, this will be a fun little sketch. There we go. Let's do like that. Tilt that forward a bit. Yeah, this will be fun. Kick this free transform. If we kick this out a little bit, it should up the actiony pose sort of look to it. That's interesting. Yeah, okay, great. I think this is the character that I want to start with. This just feels the most dynamic. It feels like a great place to start. I think the proportions are about right here. That feels about the same size. This one feels a little bit big at this point. Transform to bring you in a smidge. God, I love this pose. That's such a great pose. So this will be the one that we work with. I'm happy with this one. So yeah. quiver down here. So we start off with a pose that we like, and this feels dynamic. I like the I like the kinetics of it. So then we'll start refining. Probably bring this in a bit. For transform, just messing around with the anatomy to make sure that it's sitting proper. Since we have a pose that we like, it's because it has a lot of kinetic energy pushing through the piece. While I work on the anatomy, it's going to be important for me to preserve the energy of the character while I futz with the anatomy, so that I can make it look like reasonable proportions and physics of how the body bends without killing the energy of the pose. The pose looks good because it's currently it's exaggerated and isn't concerned about symmetrical balance or proper positioning of anatomy. It's just a cool silhouette. So while we go, we'll need to be mindful. Of making sure this stuff sits in position proper. Yeah. So it's Thursday. Monday through Friday in the morning we do artwork like this. I'm going to, I think I'm going to duplicate the layer. Drop this one down. Let's not duplicate the layer. Let's leave that be. Let's so this is the process that we go through, right? We have the original, which is no longer relevant at all, but I'm not going to destroy it. So we have our initial take, and so we'll have an initial take, and then we'll further refine, and then we'll further refine to get it down to actual anatomy and lines and being more recognizable. But this clouding process is something that we usually go through during the sketch phase. This is pretty on point for how a fill operates, and I enjoy the parallel to the AI process. Oop, this whole thing is apparently reduced. That's where I want to be. And I'm going to cut down on the edge a little bit here. There we go. So we're finding the body inside of the blur. Starting to lay out where I know the anatomy on the body is going to be at, given the angle that we're working with here. And we're working, I know this one's going to be a chick. So I'm going to we'll leotard it at first just to get the proper form, and then we'll armor her up appropriately. And these are scouts, so we're going to stay low armor. So like chain, leather, hide, no any hard plate is there's not going to be any hard metal plate, but we will have boiled plate like on like studded leather, for instance, is an option. This is a fun way to do the anatomy for the character, to just sort of start to lay out the where the muscle groups are at and the posing through, which ends up making for decent placement of armor plates and bits. A little bit of a flare in the hip here. I've done enough of these that I have a general good idea of where body proportions and muscle grouping is at, that I can, as long as the character isn't exposing too much flesh, it's pretty easy for me to have the proper proportions and look approximately correct. It's when I start exposing too much skin that I have to really get worried about, like, how exactly is that muscle tying into the tendons around the knee. You know, if I've got them armored up, then I don't have to really stress over the specific anatomical details. But being able to have exposed arms or exposed thighs or whatever certainly frees up my creative direction, so I don't have to worry about shackling myself by being limited by my anatomical skills. Like, if the pose is going to take me in a particular direction and I'm not sure about what the anatomical pose is related to where I'm heading, then I will happily find references online that will match the general pose I'm looking for, and start referencing that for accurate perspective and foreshortening and all the other blah de blah. But bring that in a smidge here. I'll have here their forearm. I don't want to make it too thick. Gals tend to have thin arms. Ranged weapons, great equalizer for women. There we go. And just slowly sculpting things into position to make it look cool. And now this quiver sits pretty nicely inside that pose there. I want to think about the twist. Nice. Pretty happy with that. Then bending in through here. Long swooping hair helps add kinetic energy to the pose. One of my earlier issues with characters was having them be too static, or an action scene. I would capture the tension. I would attempt to capture the tension of the moment right before things would strike. But the problem is that the potential that I feel in the illustration doesn't come across to people outside of that process. Like I can feel the kinetic, I can feel the anticipation while I'm illustrating it, but my skill set wasn't necessarily up to par to actually be able to depict that tension. So it's generally better to have during the moment of attack, or like right afterwards. Like here we have a like she's obviously released an arrow or is contemplating another one, which is like not drawing a string. Like if you're drawing the string or casually thumbing the wire, then that's a more passive pose. Here I'm trying to attempt to look at having already fired an arrow and basically just following through to watch where it hits. There. And when I have it angled like this with a little bit of foreshortening, I don't have to worry so much about the draw of the bow being perfectly symmetrical. Like that's symmetrical enough. It's bulbing more here than here, and this is about the midpoint here, which is about in line with where she's supposed to be at. So I can't really complain about that. Actually, it's probably supposed to be more like that. Is probably where true center is. Even that's still a little off. But the foreshortening, I think, is going to excuse it. So I can end up putting her hand here on the grip. And if I thin that down a little bit, it'll probably end up looking pretty good. I love archery. I love the cross T effect of the arm and the draw and the actual bow. I like how it sits on the character. There's a lot of dynamicness that you can get out of ranged weapons like that. I also like slings, being able to like pull off and like fling a shot. That feels a lot of fun too. The biggest problem I think I'm going to face with this piece is that when we bring it down back into the portraits, I can't have all of this. I'm going to have to probably frame it more like around like this, inside that space here, without showing all of this other stuff going on. This is the token that characters, if the characters run across these characters, these are the action tokens on the battlefield that you'll see. But the actual... Again, to look at the point of reference importance here, these are the spaces that we actually have allocated for the characters. Enrika, Ludl, Janka, and Barrett. So this will be where Erica is at. And actually, I might be able to... We'll see. I think I have more space to play with inside of here than I had with the intern, the alchemist interns. So I could potentially shave, like, let's play here for a second. Like for instance, if I were to move this block of text, see, this is out of order, but and then evil, blah, 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 of evil and then Karn would cover it, and then scouts would be back here. So I could technically trim this to here, and that would open up space here. for me to have the pose of the character with the bow. But that's just an option. So I'm not sure what we're going to actually need, but we'll be able to. We have a little bit of flexibility with text placement here for us to be able to whinge around with it some. No, don't save changes. But I'm really digging this pose, so I am not likely to give it up easily. Not in there. Little detail work we'll eventually have to get around to. But until we get there, here, yeah, that's gonna do okay. And then calf here. Good enough. Let's see. Foreshortening is an issue, so let's look at here. We probably need to pull the bow away, pardon the pun, away from the body a little bit more so that we have the space for the foreshortening that we need for the grip. We need to add in the grip here. Here. This will end up working out okay. Free transform. And then biggerify. Rib here is where the elbows are supposed to be at. That feels about right. I'm going to thin up that arm a little bit here like that. There. So we'll continue to refine the details and just clean up the ironwork as we keep going through here. Get the muscle groups more defined. It's just it's just a process of whittling down and defining step by step by step by step, getting to a point where it looks like the anatomy that we want. I think this arm needs to extend out a little bit more, like that.
So far, so good.
This is feeling a little pinched over here, so I want to take this. No, that's not right. This. Get that distancing right. There we go. So it's Thursday. We do our artwork like this Monday through Fridays in the mornings, and then on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight, and Tuesday, Friday at lunches. We do game design, and we are currently going through the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement that we published, and we're updating it to be fully compliant with the 2024 rules, and we're also creating subclasses, 2024 subclasses, to support the Combat and Exploration document. And then we'll be in position to publish the Mecha Kaiju book for Fightercraft being Gundams in Spelljammer, like Spirit Warriors, for those that know. Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. Let's take this whole frame. There we go. Bring that down a smidge. That feels better. How about doing that? Merge that down. Ooh, wait, cannot merge down. There, now we can merge down. Okay, so maybe we want to twist this a little bit more. That actually feels pretty good. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So we can blot that out. Okay, so that's where we're at now with our sketch. I'm pretty happy with her. That's decent posing, and I think, yeah, I think we can take this and increase the size of that a smidge. Yeah, that's a decent pose. So this is the second stage of posing. So here we see very blurred out or very, very loose sketch sort of characters here. And then we refine them down to this basic, general pose. So we'll go through this same process with the other characters. Just want to mess around with the... Yeah, that's starting to feel good. Cool. All right, I really like that. So now we'll do similar for this to straighten this pose up. Yeah, let's just work our way through it. We want a dynamic pose, so I'm blurring this again. It's still very rough hewn because I'm not necessarily happy with the pose that we have so far. I like the general gist of it, but it feels kind of static. I wanna up the intensity a bit. So we're gonna mess around with the how broad his arm is with the shield, and shields absorb a lot of space in a piece, and you have to be careful about its general shape so that it doesn't flatten the piece. And changing the angle, if something is too vertical, like if the blade is like literally straight, it tends to, unless it's pulled back away from the body, it tends to flatten the piece. So you want to maintain, you want to pay attention to the angles, and is like the body forming an arrow pardon the pun, like with this archer here, we can see there's a kinetic shape here that's happening going through the piece. So we want to have a similar kinetic energy. So let's actually just get rid of the arm and the shield altogether for the moment, so it doesn't cloud our judgment about the momentum that this character has. So we're going to bring the body in like this. Rock his hips back. So we can get a pose more like this. See, this is already feeling a lot more dynamic. Taking a lot of the verticality out of it, changing it into angles, it helps increase the kinetic energy, the momentum of the character, which is what we want. Generally what we want. Hips back. Hips forward, so we have like this wedge-like effect here, back hip, front hip. That helps push this leg back further. Come on, give me that pose. There we go. Get that momentum in there. The leaning the frame forward in the body tends to put the shoulders forward in comparison to the hips, but if I if it's too dramatic, it breaks the anatomy of the character. So you have to be mindful of both where your joints are at, where you've got bend in the body, and how it changes the foreshortening of the frame. And this isn't something that I generally need to reference anatomy for. It's a generic enough of a pose that I've dealt with often enough that I generally have a gist of like how the body looks, right? But if you aren't familiar, if you find yourself getting into a pose that you aren't familiar with, getting a photo reference of how actual anatomy is working is important. Because again, you want the viewer to be able to assess that this is accurate, so that your eye will hand wave as much of it as you can, so that you don't have to do more and more work trying to convince the audience that this is accurate. That's why you see a lot of repetitive poses, especially with dynamic characters. There's only so many dynamic poses that you can produce without being awkward. You just kind of have to get used to, like, there's a certain range of motion that the human body is capable of posing into. And you want to operate within that space without... There we go. without breaking the basic anatomy of the body. So here, and then we want to keep this tight here. So when we bring the shield in, again, keeping proportions and perspective in mind for foreshortening, this round shield will most certainly be an oval. There we go, like that. It's too wide of a stance. I need to bring that in a bit. Free transform. Let's try skewing a little. Pull this in here. All right, that already feels better. And then here we can actually pull this a bit. Transform. Big shield takes up a lot of space. I'm going to trim that down a little so it's not unnecessarily over. I'm going to get rid of that leg. I'm going to redo that. I'm going to cut off the whole lower body and put it in as a separate piece. There's the anatomy of where this guy is at, and his arm here to here. That feels like fairly proper placement. I think I can pull this down just a little bit more there. Here, if I kick his hips a bit more, so if I create a swoop like this, I can bring the angle of his body around to be more, again, dynamic. I want dynamic, I want off center, I want angles, and he was too linear for the pose. So I have to adjust and skew so we can have so he remains structurally sound and solid in his stance, but it feels kinetic. So that means we have to shift the angle of the body overall to have the whole body lean into the to lean into the pose. If that makes sense. So free transform. I'm gonna shorten this down a bit like that. No less be there, and then we can get this angle across like that. There, and then if we tilt the hip forward here and then rescind here. Free transform. So far, so good. So what? So you have the arm extend down to about here, and then here. That feels okay. Give all of this, and then we can go. How about put a twist there? Working on the posing here, just trying to get this to feel now we're starting to find it. Get that effect in there like that. Curve this around. There we go. I'll just grab that whole thing there, and we're going to pull that forward a little bit more to create a little more space for the shoulders. There we go. Not bad. Here we go. Like this arm in a little bit. It's a little, oh, that's wrong tool there, Kearney. There we go. I'm gonna bring this in, get a little bit more under control. It's out of proportion, so bring that down a bit here. I'm gonna have this curve here for its rib cage. So that feels about right. There we go. Holy Hannah, I'm hungry. At the end of August, I was 237 pounds, and I'm 217 now. So I've lost about. And now in the real world is the first week. It's 9/11 today. Cheers. So in about 40, I've lost 20 pounds in about 40 days. So that's about half a pound a day that I'm dropping, which is not unusual with intermittent fasting for a man. And but oh boy, do I get hungry. Fasting is the, I mean, by the very nature of it, it makes you hungry. Block here for, okay, this is starting to feel pretty good. Yeah, I think that's a decent pose we got going on there. I think I can be happy with that. So let's clean up the anatomy a little bit now that I have a pose that I'm comfortable with. I can drop that down a little bit more. Now I can actually start working on like actual anatomy. Those clavicles going here, the deltoids, the lats. Give this lat a bit of bulk. Lats into pec. Deltoid ties the lats to the pecs through the clavicle. Sternocleidoid mastoids here along the neck, framing the Adam's apple. Now we got this decent lean going on, so sticking with the pecs, up into the deltoids. Deltoids merges to the lats. Lats into deltoids into biceps. Triceps at the back. Creating the frame for the joint. To the forearm. There we go. block. If I get the muscles bending like this, it creates this swoop in the hips. You can see here. And contrary to the feminine form that flares out, we want to make sure that we stay T and square. Men are T's and are the letter T and square, while girls are more like Y's and vases. We got our lats again pushing out here. Here's our deltoids and our pectorals. Ribs. Block. T-square frame. Tricep, bicep. Creating the frame for the elbow joint here. And then pulls through to here. Good. Triangles for direction. There we go. There you go. Okay, and what's going on with our timer? What time is it? Oh, it's 8 o'clock. All right, we're going to have to cut stream now, guys. I got to bounce. I'm going to be back tonight in about 10 hours to work on Spelljammer 2.0 for 2024 mechanics. Yeah, so stick around. Thanks a lot for anyone that's checked out the stream. Like, subscribe, blah-de-blah, and I'll probably have to tilt this shield down a little bit to match the curve of this arm. But I'm really happy with how this is coming along. This is turning out really nicely. I'm happy with it. This is all looking really good. So we'll continue with this tomorrow morning, and we'll do Spelljammer tonight. And thanks a lot to anyone that's been checking out the channel. I really appreciate you guys. So I'll see you on the other side.